Good morning. We're getting the propane tank filled up. Get my heat running again. Can you guys see that? A little bit. It's turned white overnight. You can see it across the road over there better. Welcome to April. So we officially did not get any March beans planted because it is now April 1st. Prospects for doing any field work are not good anytime soon. It is cold and still wet. We're not super wet, saturated, flooded, but wet enough that it's going to take a few days at least for things to dry out. So anytime, it's time to start being ready to go, but we're not there yet. All right, I got the heater back up and running in there. We'll keep it warm in there. Trying to treat beans. The sun is bright today. We're gonna go work on the planter for a little while. We may be back down here later this morning or afternoon trying to deliver some of that corn, getting some stuff out of here. So that's the plan for the day. But let me go show you what we were doing on the corn planter last night. So I got those parts from Zorro yesterday. We got our bulkhead fittings, so we were able to connect these hoses that we had put in before that go back to our pump, and then run the long hoses that we're going to lay right on top of this tube all the way up to here. I did not get the fittings that go in there because those are on a 45, so we're still waiting for those. We'll get them, and then these will go in there. We're going to end up with a little slack in some hoses, but just a little long. But anyway, I'm trying to get it secured to the top here. And so what we're using is some clamps like this. I got one done. They bolt together. Got this bottom plate that is threaded. And so what I have done is gone through and drill some holes in the top of our tube here. And yes, I know there are wires and hoses and stuff in there, so you don't just take your drill and ram it in. You do it a little bit carefully, but it's not that hard to do. And now I'm going to tap it and thread those holes so that when we run our bolt through the top of that clamp, it clamps it right tight to the tube. So that's what I'm doing. We don't have to go all the way in because the tube is only 1/4 of an inch thick, so just got to get threads through it. Like so. So I'm putting the base plate on the bottom half of the hose holder, and then we lay our hoses in there. This is much harder with one hand than it is with two. Put the top on there, try and get it all lined up just right. And then there's a top plate. And then I did get different bolts that were just a little bit longer so that they would thread all the way through into the tube and not just into that base plate. But you got to have it lined up and just right so that when that goes through that tube that it starts to thread into our hole underneath. I thought about drilling the threads out on this so that the bolt would just pass through it, but this tube's not real thick, and I thought, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know. Maybe this isn't going to work, but we're not getting very deep into that tube. The bolt's not sticking through it even. So I think I'm going to be okay. But if we have trouble, we'll drill those bottom clamps out and put longer bolts in. Or just take the base plate off and lay the plastic right on this tube. That would work too. Okay, that should hold them. We may end up needing some zip ties on here if these start hanging down on the sides, because they can't get in between here, or especially here, or they will hit and pinch, and that would be bad. But I think those will hold it. So once I get my fittings for this, we can hook those up, and then I have these other two hoses here that are going to go from there up to the tractor. And I don't really want to plug those in, because if I happen to plug them in and bump the lever, then oil goes everywhere without the other ends connected to anything, and that would be bad. Anyway, we're done here again with the planter stuff until we get those fittings and I get some clamps. We've got some more clamps coming for here and down here for this bigger hose than what was on there. And I am waiting on a fitting for our pump, I've got to connect the supply hose, which I have a chunk of laying here, but we've got to connect from here to here, and I want to put this elbow in there, but I can't do it. It's too close. So I got a little extension piece coming that's going to push this elbow out to here. So maybe those parts come today, I don't know. Next up, I've got this little wire harness extension that I'm making for the radio in the cab. I'll take the pieces up there and explain it to you, I guess. So I bought another two-way radio, Midland radio, to put up in here, and John Deere has a pre-wired power harness and antenna cable that goes to the antenna that's out there on the top of the cab roof, and those come in through that little hole in the back there. Good spot for the radio to sit. However, John Deere's power connector is different than Midland's, and well, I could have cut either one of those ends off and spliced them together. I have a very hard time cutting up new stuff, especially on my new tractor. So what I did instead, Midland gives you this big long power harness that had their connector on it, a couple of fuses, cables to find power and do whatever. Well, I cut that off, and I got the terminals and the plug, the connector, to connect to that John Deere one. So I just got to put it together and connect it. And I didn't need all that extra wire, so that's why I cut it off. Yes, I realize I cut the fuses out of that as well, but look, there's a fuse right there. There's no reason for it to be double fused, so it'll be fine. There we go. We've got power. So this is a 3-wire. We got the ground in the middle, and then there's 2 hots. One is constant, one is keyed, and I made sure to put the wire into the keyed side because I want the radio to shut off when I turn the tractor off. Okay, I worked on the computer a little bit trying to get some more setup stuff done for the setup file that I got to send into the planner there. I just texted one of my seed customers, asked them if I could bring them their seed, and then it started snowing on our roof, so that's fun. Everything's in boxes, so it's not a big deal. I can still do it, but yeah, it's cold. But we're gonna go get my Chevy truck, hook up the gooseneck trailer, load up some seed, and go deliver it. Well, I got the trailer. I suppose I should check the tires. Seeing as how I haven't used it in a few months, and I'm gonna put a lot of seed on it in a minute here. We'll make sure everything's good. Needed a little bit. Supposed to be 95 in these tires. First one here had 68. That one I checked was at 82, so not terrible, but we'll get them up where they're supposed to be. We're just gonna pull this right inside and shut the door while we load so that we're not letting all our heat out. So this customer gets 6 boxes. They're all right in a line right here. There's 4 boxes of corn and 2 boxes of beans. So we're gonna load them all up on the trailer and we'll have a full load. 6 boxes, load them up. That's a heavy load. We're not going very far, we're only going about 3 miles, so we'll be fine. We'll go a little slow, but that clears out a row there for me so we can spread this stuff out a little bit more to get to piles that we need to when we need to, or whatever. Strap them down. Better strap them down even though we're not going very far. Boxes are strapped on. I grabbed some shirts and hats to give to them, and off we'll go. We're back. Look, we got a box. This is the plumbing fittings we need for that pump and to finish our planter, the plumbing side. All right, so this is the piece that I was waiting for and that we just added, and it's just an extension to get it out here past this edge so we can put an elbow on there. And now we just need a hose to connect the two. Okay, fertilizer system is completely plumbed up and ready to go. So I'm going to do a very quick high-level overview of how exactly this works. This is our fill port right here. So I can hook up my hose here from our bulk tanks out at the fertilizer dike and fill the tank on the planter. Or, more likely, this is where we hook up the tank that we pull, my 1,600-gallon pull-behind four-wheel steer cart. When they're hooked up, there's a connection here. The valves are open. Fertilizer flows through the big 2-inch tube, goes around the front. Big 2-inch tube around the front. Can go into this tank to fill. Electric valve on there that I can control remotely from the tractor. Open or close. If it's closed, we're drawn out of the rear tank. Reduce our plumbing size to 1.5 inches. We go through there, through our filter, which that filter now with the new system can be a 20 mesh, a much bigger screen than the what we had in there. I think it was an 80 mesh, so we can change that out. Anyway, continues through the 1.5 inch line that we just hooked up to the pump, through our valve, 1.5 inch line to the pump. Pumps and pressurizes through our flow meter, come out of this inch line to our section control valves. That turns on and off as needed automatically to control overlap. Comes out of those with these, I believe, 3/4 inch hoses to our distribution manifold. Supply in from the pump. So these are our manifold flow meters. So the fluid comes in, can go through the bottom of these, will go up through, the balls will raise and float in there so we can tell that they're even and as much going through them. Out of each one through this 3/8 tube. Check valve, shut off valve into our dual metering tubes. Metering tubes go around, they're 8 foot long, into the Y that's in back into the 3/8 tube, goes down to our openers. Simple and easy. It works. You guys want to see something cool? Check it out. So Tony, my sales rep, just stopped by, dropped something off for me. See that? Check this out. So agronomist Wade has made up some agronomy calendars for 2022. Right there, buddy. April. XL Seeds. That's our stuff. That's our farm. That's our tractor. That was plant and plot last year. We are kicking off the agronomy calendar. First ever, first month. That's pretty awesome. Made the calendar. Well, I've been doing a little cleaning up here. This is that motor from the pump that was bad. That we threw the pump away, but the motor's still good, although the shaft was pitted. So I decided to try and build it up a little bit. I used some JB Weld, which is like an epoxy metal. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but if that stuff fills in the pits and gets hard, and then I can take some sandpaper and sand it down to the right diameter, right size shaft and everything, it might be good for something. We got to find something to do with that motor. It's a really good motor, so we'll see. We are done here with these seed plates. Brock got them all sprayed, graphite put on them. Everything looks good there, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these back in the boxes, and we'll get them out when it's time to go plant, I guess. We don't like to leave them in the planter because they compress the seals, and you're better to not leave them in when you're not planting. So we take them out. And this here is the pile of extra parts that Surefire sent us with our new pump and stuff. Everything's done and installed, so they gave us quite a bit of extra stuff. Extra check valve. Here's the different balls for the floats. This bag here had the extra plumbing pieces, the Ys and some of that stuff. And a lot of this was options for different, like this is depending on how your sections and everything worked out. You could put this in the middle. Like if we only did 2 sections here, you could put this in the middle of these two, and and have the caps on the ends instead of feeding each one of them separate and that kind of stuff. But didn't use them, so we got a bunch of extra stuff. We'll throw them on the shelf. Someday they might come in handy. Someday in 40 years I might throw them away wondering what the heck they were from. That's reasonable. So one of the things that we try really hard to do is make sure that our plates always end up in the same row. So they are all numbered. You'll notice that we write it on the inside here. Note, Brock, for future times when you're doing this, don't paint my numbers. Like, I can tell that one's a 5. There was another one that you couldn't read, and a couple on the bean plates that got painted over. The wear part of this is the outer ring, right? Kind of where this line is out. That's what rubs on the seal on the back of the vacuum door on the meters. This part in here doesn't actually wear on anything, neither does this. So this is what really needs to be painted. And yeah, don't paint my numbers. Thanks. Here's that premium piece of plywood yet. Got another coat of graphite on it. It's worth even more now, I think. So I'm taking a little bit of time here this afternoon to work on my prescription maps, stuff that I should have had done a long time ago. But I did them for beans, and then I didn't get them all done for corn, and so I'm trying to finish those up. I've only got a few more to do, but we're getting there. So I thought I'd walk you through one of these because I know I haven't done that yet. I should probably do a screen record instead of holding my phone here. Let me pull it up. So I'm editing this video and just realized that my screen record did not work. It only recorded like part of my second screen and not the main screen. So most of what you're about to see doesn't make any sense because you can't see what I'm actually working on. But if I cut it, the rest of the video doesn't make sense. So just do the best you can and I'll try again some other time. Sorry. Okay, so we're working here. I've got my field that I've picked out, and our source layer for what we're making our data from is a average yield. So we'll give that a second to pull up, and we're going to use corn. This particular field, we only have 2 years of corn data, so we're just going to select both of those, harvest yield, then hit next. And then over here, this is the field that we are working in, so our variety is going to be O2K39. So O2K39, this is the field. I want to change these breakpoint numbers to 120, 150, 180, 210. Update the map. Okay, so we don't have a lot of zones. We basically have 2 zones and then just a little bit in this corner. No big deal there. Add variety. Product is O2K39. Now we need to know our values. And for that, we're coming over here. We're gonna look at this first, O2K39. Okay, so we're gonna select that, O2K39. And this gives me a fancy little chart to tell me what yield or what population to plant in different yield environments. And so we go down here to our 120, which is clear at the bottom, 30,776. We're going to round that to 30,500. So I'm going to write that down on my paper. And then we're going to look at 150, and it says 33,000. And then 180, and it's 35,000. And then 210, and that's 37,000. And then our top zone, we're going to use a 240. Wait, yeah, 37, 240. So that'd be, we're going to call it 38.5. Okay. So then we come back over here and we type those in. So 30,500, 33,000. 35,000, 37,000, and 38,500. Those are pretty high numbers. This is a higher yielding, or a higher population variety than a lot of what I've been doing. But anyway, so that's that. Now we're going to do, oh wait. Put this in here just for fun. So now I'm doing a little math. You can see that total seeds applied is 423,801. I'm going to divide that by the acres in the field, which is 11.7. So that gives us an average seeding rate of 36,222 in that field. So I type that in here, 36,222, just so that it calculates out how many bags I need. 5.3, I've got 5 allocated. That's close enough. Now right here that yes, I have a population script. Starter blends, I have 3 different starter blends that I'm using this year. We're going to use starter blend 1 in this field. Starter RX, yes, we're going to make that right now. Tank mix, starter blend 1. The value here is 7 gallons per acre, 8.7, 10.5, 12.3, and 14. So that means we're going to use 136 gallons divided by our 11.7 is 11.62 is my average, so I'll type that in over here, 11.62, and then it calculates how much of everything that I need. I need to update that though. NH3, yes. Come back to here, select a product, 8200, 105, 130, 160, 185, and 200. And we take our 2,059 divided by 11.7 is 176 is my average. 176. And that's how we make them. Then we hit save. And on to the next one. It's pretty straightforward. Just takes a little bit of time to do it. A couple of things there. One, my yield zones, the 120, 150, 180, 210, those are numbers that I came up with a couple of years ago as kind of broad breaks. We have very little in that 120 and under range. In fact, it's mostly along tree lines. So my idea is there is to cut our inputs and not put it where stuff's not going to yield and perform anyway. Kind of the 130 falls into that range too. Back when I started this, our average did fall somewhere in that 150 to 180 range. We're creeping towards the higher end of that, and I probably need to tweak my zones and go higher or just drop the bottom one altogether. But that's how I've been doing it, and I'm just going to continue it with this year. So that's that one. The starter rates and the anhydrous rates, those are based off of my starter blends and all those things that I figured out months ago or back in January as far as what we wanted to put on for nutrients and how much total nitrogen we want. So those things are all added together to come up with that number. And then, like you saw, the population's coming from that calculator on Golden Harvest website, and it works. I mean, we're going to plant anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000. Depending on the hybrid and the yield environment this year. So I do vary them quite a bit. I find it pointless to go between 30 and 33,000 on your population variance. There's not enough of a difference to matter. So if you're going to do it. Actually vary something and make a difference. I do make things a little bit overly complicated. I will give you that. But it's kind of I have the technology to do this and to vary the rates and make scripts. So I'm trying to take advantage of it and capitalize on that, use that stuff to our advantage. So in some cases it's trying to push yields, in some cases it's trying to save costs. Rarely do I actually save anything by varying my rates on stuff. I'm more so reallocating it. I'm putting things where they need to be and where they're going to make the most benefit, right? So there's no reason to over fertilize or over seed the areas along trees or the wet spots or the poor areas of the field, the historically poor areas. They're not going to yield anyway. There's no reason to push them. But in those spots that have been doing well, we can try and push them and make them yield a little bit better. So I'll put a little bit more seed there. I'll put a little bit more starter on. I'll put more nitrogen where I'm trying to really push those yields instead of just putting a blanket rate on everything and making it even. So I don't know. That's the idea. Whether it works or not, well, I mean it does, but it's hard to prove the yield impact of that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now it's 5:30. It's a Friday. My sisters, two of my sisters, are home with some of my nieces and nephews. The cousins are over there playing, and I'm getting the fancy pizza oven out. So we're gonna go cook pizza out when it's 35 degrees outside, but whatever. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Spring is coming sooner or later. It is gonna warm up. We're gonna do some field work. Right now, we're about 3 weeks away from really wanting to get started. 4 or 5 weeks from we need to be in the fields going. We may dry up between now and then and warm up enough to be going. I don't know. It's supposed to rain a bunch next week, so that's not going to help, but it is what it is. We're going to treat beans next week, do some seed deliveries. You're going to get a lot of that stuff, so that's what we got going on. But have a great weekend. We'll see everybody on Monday. Beautiful.